Hi, my name's Jay Baumgartner, and I am running for the 6th District for Warsaw School Board. It is currently held by Deb Wiggin, who is no longer able to run this term, and so I have stepped up to serve on the school board for this upcoming year. I am kind of a local boy. I grew up in the area in Milford, just north of here. Graduated from Warsaw High School. Hopefully nobody holds that against me. Went on to Manchester College, Manchester University these days. Got my accounting degree and went to work in Fort Wayne for 2 years at Ernst & Young, was an auditor for a couple of years, realized that wasn't my calling, didn't really like living in Fort Wayne, and I ended up getting a job back here in Warsaw, here at the Otis R. Bowen Center, and I have been here now 21 years. The last 18 of those years I have been their Senior VP, Vice President of Financial Services. I did get my MBA at IPFW in 2009, and I am also a CPA.
Okay. Why did you decide to run for school board? What did you want to accomplish by running?
Well, certainly, I felt like I could be a good candidate. I could be very useful on the board with my financial background, my accounting background, business background, and there's a lot of similarity between Bowen Center, where I work, and the Warsaw Community Schools. Bowen Center, we are about 85% funded by federal, state, local sources. About only 15% come from private pay, which is obviously similar to a school system. We have about a $38 million budget, annual budget. School system about $46 million, so very similar from that vantage point. And as far as number of employees, we have about 700 for the school system. I think they're around 1,000 or so. We're both spread out over vast building areas, and so communicating. And we have similar types of employees. They're degree teachers, ours are degree therapists, along with administrative and some non-degree. So there's a lot of similarities between the school system, what Bowen Center does, and so I felt I could be of use my expertise here, take that to the school board to kind of help the school board, the process, decision making that they need to make. I also have a vested interest with my family. My wife Deb, been married to her 19 years. She is a first grade swoop teacher at Washington Elementary School. She just works part-time in the morning, working with kids, helping them learn to read. And then I do have 3 boys that do attend the Warsaw school system. Ryan, who's 16, is a sophomore at the high school. Eric is 13 and is an 8th grader at Edgewood. And then my youngest, Kyle, is 11 and is a 5th grader at Washington Elementary School. And so obviously I got a lot of kids in it, and so I like I said, have a vested interest in it. And then finally, I just feel like God is calling me to do this. I got interested about 8 years ago when the school system had a lot of issue with the building program, overcrowding in elementary schools, some superintendent issues, redistricting. There's a lot of big issues going on, and that's when I really became interested. But chose not to run at that time just because I had so much going on in my life. I was at Warsaw Community Development Corporation, serving as their treasurer. I was with unopposed in various roles, president, vice president, treasurer as well. I was doing a lot of things in church, deacon, trustee, Sunday school teacher, along with working on getting my MBA. And so the timing just wasn't right then. Here, 2012, no longer at WCDC as the treasurer, not doing unopposed, and we had changed church here in recent years and haven't been involved as much. So I'm really looking for something to, a way to serve the community. And when this opportunity came up, I just felt it was God calling me, that it was my time, and that's what He wanted me to do.
Okay. Well, you mentioned, issues a few years ago, and one of the recent things is that the school board had COVID Hawkins do a facilities assessment. Different ideas were presented, like building a new Lincoln and tearing down, et cetera, et cetera. Total cost of the whole thing, $110.5 million. How much have you looked over that? What are your thoughts on it? Any ideas you like, don't like?
Well, I have been attending the board meetings ever since I threw my hat into the ring, and so I was at the board meeting when they did present that study. I also received a copy of it from Dr. Hint, so I've had some time to look at it, kind of review it. Obviously, my first reaction, which is I think what everybody's reaction was, is, wow, 110 million. How can we realistically justify paying 110 million for the list of needs that they put forth? And Dr. Hint was pretty clear to say, hey, this is just their idea, this isn't necessarily our ideas. But looking at the positive, I really think it was a great idea to get a feasibility study done. I really think we need to develop some sort of long-term, we call it a capital expenditure plan, but basically kind of a building plan over time, and so we don't get hit all at once with 110 million at one time, and we don't get hit with where we closed Claypool Schools a number of years ago, and then a few years later we reopen up Claypool Schools. Looking at this study, one of the things they recommended was tearing down the administrative building and building a new, I think it was an OrthoWorks campus on that area, and here we just put a lot of money in remodeling and enlarging that building, and so we need a good long-term plan so we don't waste taxpayers' funds, and so I like the idea, I like the plan. I'm not interested in, like I said, 110 million. I think there's a lot of overkill in some of those things. A lot of buildings like Lincoln, yes, it's older, but is it still functional? Is it really necessary? Those are things we really need to evaluate. I haven't walked through the school to really get an opinion on that, but my take is don't spend the money unless it's really either needed or there are things it's going to achieve by doing it. And some of those achievements I'd look at is it going to improve test scores? Is it going to improve our graduation rates? And so those are a couple things that I would certainly want to look at. And certainly, is the facility overcrowded? Because we don't want to get back to where we were, where these facilities were way overcrowded, and we had kids out in trailers for classroom. We don't want to get back to that point at all. So using that those analogies, is it going to alleviate overcrowdedness? Is it going to improve test scores, educational value? Now, one thing I am high on is the use of technology. The more building need, but certainly anything related to technology is something I would certainly be in favor of. And certainly there are aspects of the Career Center, which might help graduation rates. I'm very intrigued by that. Okay.
Well, yeah, one of the questions I wanted to ask was different aspects of education, one of those being the career and vocational education. Do you think Warsaw's doing enough? Can it do more? Where do you think Warsaw stands as far as career and vocational education?
I am one of the pleasant surprises I had as I throw my hat in the ring was just how vast this whole career center was, because I really had no idea all the avenues and aspects that they were offering. I mean, agriculture, biomedical, computers, radio, TV broadcasting. That's one of the things I got interviewed by a student for the radio, and I was just amazed at their studio and the professionalism of the student. I mean, you could tell he was well taught, well trained. So it really gave a great opportunity for these kids to look at careers and look at maybe their avenue. Because it's tough as a high schooler to know what I want to be when I, quote-unquote, grow up. And so the more we can give them exposure to these areas can help them either know what degree to pursue in college or whether, if they're not going to college, I mean, one of the things they do that I learned was they teach some kids how to weld. I mean, that's just tremendous that they can finish school and have that skill set. So I am extremely impressed by what we're doing. Now, one of my hot topics is clearly graduation rates, and certainly having a good, effective career center is a great opportunity to improve those graduation rates. I know here, 5 years ago, I think it was 2007, graduation rates were only like 72%. Whereas here in 2011 they were up to just under 89%, and they're cautiously optimistic that it might be over 90%, which is just tremendous improvements. That being said, it's still not good enough. I mean, that's still 10% of kids aren't graduating in our own community. I mean, you think a kid not graduating outside the community, but within our community, 10% still are not graduating. I mean, you're looking at 50, 60 kids that just aren't fulfilling what they need, and they need to graduate in these days. And so the more we can expand the career center, the more we can reach those kids. I won't be happy till we're 100%.
Okay. During the presidential debate, one of the things they talked about was math and science. Mm-hmm. You know, Obama said hire 100,000 new math and science teachers. Again, kind of similar to the last one. Where do you think Warsaw stands in math and science, and do you see anything else they need to do to kind of push that and encourage that?
Well, certainly the devil is in the detail. Anytime the federal government starts pushing either money or mandates down, that basically means a little less control on the state level, the local levels. And so I always get a little nervous when the government is starting to push things down our way. Obviously, one of the things, my nephew participated. He's a math teacher at West Noble High School. His first year just got out of school, and I know he got a grant to pay some of the student loans off. But one of the conditions was he needed to go to a rural school, which I don't think Warsaw was one of those places he could even consider. So the devil's in the detail on when they start proposing these sorts of things. That being said, I think Warsaw's doing a good job. I do know our SAT scores are above the average for the U.S. and in Indiana. Same thing with our ACT scores. And so, obviously, there's always room for improvement, but looking at the test scores, I think we're definitely heading down the right path.
Okay. And my last question for you, is there anything else that you want to talk about, any of your platforms or anything you want people to know about you before you begin serving on the board? Or?
Well, certainly. I touched on a lot of them. I just want to touch again on my financial business background. I think I'll be a good asset. I am very fiscally conservative, so I'm not ready to sign my name to $110 million unless there's certain conditions that warrants spending that money. I'm very high proponent of technology, using technology to teach kids. I think we're at an age where it can really revolutionize teaching, getting a little bit away from just lecturing to using more technology. So I think we're very much ready to revolutionize teaching. Certainly got a vested interest with my wife and and kids being part of the school system. And I'm certainly, as I mentioned, graduation rates. That's an area I just want to continue to push harder and harder. If all else fails, if you look at my Cleveland Browns, as you can see, I am dedicated and loyal. I don't jump on bandwagons, and so you can know I'll be here. I'll be here for us. And if all else fails, I can pull up my mug where it says, where my kids say I'm awesome. So I think between all that, I'll make a good candidate.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.